I know you won't get slow down, feels the no good, funky knuckle groove. Baby, 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 that'll help for you. Yeah, it's most definitely on a roof.
Hi there, my name's Brendan Sheehan, and today I'm going to talk to you about festival vendors. No, not these types of festival vendors, but the types of festival vendors like myself that have made an honest living going on to the various music festivals around the country and providing our services, many of which have actually been doing this for decades. So today I'd like to just share with you some of what I've learned over the past 11 years in business and just kind of give you some suggestions as to some small adjustments you can make at your events that not only help to benefit the vendor marketplace, but also to help really benefit the festival's bottom line. So first I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. About 11 years ago I started a company called Mr. B's Festival Needs General Store. And we go around to various music festivals around the country. And I'd realized after attending a lot of these music festivals that although there were many vendors that were selling food and jewelry and clothing and things like that, there really wasn't anybody that was providing any kind of general convenience or camping supply stores. And so you had to go off-site, and it was a whole big ordeal, and and you'd miss music the whole time. So I thought to myself, somebody should really set up a general store at a lot of these music festivals. And then I was like, I should set up general stores at these music festivals. And so, immediately put pen to paper and kind of came up with, a list of things that I thought I would either had forgotten or, didn't know people would need at a, music festival. And we just kind of grew from there. We kept a suggestion list from show to show, and we were able to, quickly expand our inventory. And then from there, also establish a good rapport with not only the patrons of the festival, but with the production companies as well. So by our second year in business, we had doubled in size and doubled the amount of events that we were working with. And many of the events on this list actually used to run their general stores in-house, but found it much easier to contract us to provide the service, as because it's such a monumental task. So our slogan has always been, if you forgot it, we brought it, and we do exactly that. We carry over 250 festival essentials on the shelves each day, and we stay open 24 hours to ensure that all the patrons can acquire whatever they need throughout the event and that. And over the past 11 years, we've really established ourselves as the one-stop shop for festival essentials. So, as you can imagine, over the past 11 years, we've certainly seen, our fair share of marketplace setups, as well as, seeing what works and what doesn't work. Basically, I know that there's a lot of, folks in attendance here that, produce their own events and things like that. So I just want to help with, avoiding that learning curve and share some of what I've, sort of learned over the years and really, help to bolster the, the relationship between, you and your vendors, and that. So, most importantly is your vendors they're not only providing your food, your concessions and your crafts, they have their finger on the pulse of the festival at all times. So that they're talking to the patrons, they have constant contact with them. So, we definitely hear what's going well, we certainly hear what's not going well. And so most of the successful events are the ones that know their customer base inside and out. And so, vendors can really help to provide a lot of this information moving forward. So poll your vendors, find out what's going well, what's not going well, what could use improvement, find out what the patrons are saying, that sort of thing. And have your vending coordinator check in, throughout the weekend and after the event, just to kind of get a wrap up. And actually, on the topic of the vending coordinator, it's definitely important. A good vending coordinator can really mean the difference between a good festival and a great festival. And someone that's very good with communication, that can convey the needs of both the vendors and the production, to each other and vice versa. Somebody that's, a good problem solver, those sorts of things. Your vending coordinator should also be involved in the selection process. So that way they can ensure that there's enough diversity of products being sold and not not a bunch of overlap of of vendors and that. Also, having them be involved with the festival's layout can also help to kind of figure out where the flow of foot traffic is going to be. So that way, it really kind of creates a better value for your vending spaces. There's many other ways to really kind of increase the value of your vending spaces and thus obviously be able to charge more for your for the space. Some of those it's just some small amenities that are often overlooked that you can just include. One of those obviously is bathrooms. With vendor-only bathrooms or bathrooms that are somewhat close to our craft vending village, it allows it so that when we're busy, we don't have time for our employees to be gone for a half hour waiting in line to use one of the bathrooms. So having a bathroom close by and and serviced often is definitely a big key. Also, in terms of camping, having vendor-only camping because, for instance, our booth is open 24 hours and many of the other booths are as well. And, so this is a way, for those overnight guys definitely need, the same type of rest that the folks working the day, get and that. So having the camping, specific for vendors as well as close by the vendors, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard from either my employees or from other, vendors and that have had their tents or their vehicles broken into just because, the camping area is a half mile away and, it's unattended throughout the day. And so people, can feel free to go in and out of people's tents and that kind of thing. So, having camping close by is definitely something that's very important. Also, something like Wi-Fi. Obviously, connectivity is paramount at a lot of these events, and so I understand Wi-Fi obviously incurs additional costs, but those costs could be dissipated out over the vendors that were interested in taking advantage of that service. Because not only with Wi-Fi can we accept credit cards and things of that nature, especially with, there's limited cell service. But we're also, throughout the weekend, we're posting on, on our socials and we're cross-promoting the events and things like that. So to be able to get that information out to people is really beneficial, not only to ourselves, but also to, to the festivals themselves. So Wi-Fi is another one of those pieces. Also, our booths, whether you know it or not, all of the vendor booths somehow end up being the unofficial information booth. So patrons come to us throughout the entire weekend and, they think we're the lost and found and, all kinds of things. So it's best if you can give us vendors some information so that we can convey it to your patrons. Where is the lost and found? Where is the medical tent? Are there water filling stations, things of that sort. And, in terms of, the festival schedules and the maps, rather than giving those out at the entrance point, we should get people into the mindset of going to these sponsor booths and these vendor booths and having these festivals and maps at the actual booths so that it starts the interaction with a lot of these folks, and the patrons and that much earlier in the event. And also listing what vendors are actually going to be at your event, because of course we've built up brand recognition with many of these vendors over the years, and so a lot of them, they may have been saving up for, the whole summer for that one dress or piece of jewelry, that kind of thing. And so, they want to know and be able to plan. And so having a list of what vendors are going to be there. And of course, you can always take that one step further and offer paid advertising space in both the festival booklets as well as the, online apps or things of that kind, nature. So those are definitely some ways that you can sort of increase the value of your vending spaces. And so the last thing I wanted to talk to you about today is just a way to bridge the gap between your vendors and your sponsors. In the first year that we did the Lock-In Festival, Josh had reached out to us because he had a sponsor that was looking to have a point of sale at the event. and but they didn't necessarily want to set up their own booth space. So he and I had chatted, and we figured out a way to be able to offer up some shelf space for this sponsor. And in exchange, during the weekend, at their full page ad in the festival newspaper, they had a little blurb in there about where they could where people could purchase the specific product. And it actually, it went really well. We sold a lot of these units because people hadn't an idea of where they could go for these, and so the return on investment, the ROI for these sponsors was that much, it was that much better, and the activation became more valuable. So I saw this opportunity, for other events and for other festivals and that, because as you know, we're seeing the same faces weekend in and weekend out, and so we really have an opportunity to establish, a friendship and a trust among our customer base. And oftentimes they, will make purchases just based on our recommendations alone. So I saw this opportunity at many of the other events that we worked, and so I started reaching out to the sponsorship division, and we were able to be put in touch with a lot of great companies, many of them up here, and it's just been a great way for them to receive some more ROI for their activation, and it's been a great way to sort of integrate those brands with the patrons. So this is definitely something that's very beneficial, in that, and really a good way to kind of bridge that gap with your vendors and your sponsors. Because of course, it doesn't necessarily only apply to our booth; it also applies to any type of your vendor booth. Think of your food vendors proudly carrying, Heinz ketchup, or sourcing, goods and services locally, so that it sort of drives the local economy at where your festival is taking place. So all of those can really kind of help to bridge this gap. So that's pretty much all I've got for you today. I appreciate you sticking around and listening. Again, obviously, we're the biggest thing here is we're all in this to make money and to see some great music. But the most important thing is to sort of help others succeed in the process, because anyone that's ever worked or been to a music festival, certainly understands that, when we put our collective minds together, we can literally overcome any kind of problem and create an event that's an amazing experience for tens of thousands of people. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Thanks very much. I'll be around for questions if you have any, and thanks again. Let's eat.